They've been serving Metro Detroit since 1942. Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Laurel Hess and this is Comcast Newsmakers. Joining me now is the publisher and executive editor of the Detroit Jewish News, Arthur Horwitz. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Laurel. Appreciate being here.
1942, that means you're coming up on your 75th year of a publication. It is the Detroit Jewish News, a still paper that you can hold in your hand today. I would imagine it's probably changed a whole lot over 75 years, but it's still in print.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's almost 75 years, and it's while it's in print, we also have a digital version, which in and of itself says something about what's changed over 75 years. Because in 1942, if you think about what was going on in the world, what was going on in Europe, what was going on in the Pacific, what was starting to come out as it related to European Jewry and the concentration camps and being on the doorstep of the Holocaust. Here was this man, Philip Slomovitz, who started the Detroit Jewish News, and he had a vision about putting out a quality publication, something that would speak to both the horrors of what was going on overseas as well as the hope of the Jewish people. And here we are, almost 75 years later, and that man's vision is still very much a part of what we do and what's embedded in our community.
Well, it must have had to have changed quite a bit, right? Because a lot of what was going on in the Jewish community then is certainly much different now. So what does the paper focus on now, content-wise? How has it changed over 75 years?
Well, today the focus is largely on how do we as a Jewish community connect to the community around us, Detroit first and foremost, but also to the world and of course to Israel and what's going on in the Middle East. The other thing though, in getting back to 75 years ago, print, digital, in 1942, if you looked at the Jewish News, you had something that was called Activities in Society. It was like a gossip column every week, and I look at it and I say, that was Facebook. In 1942, people were putting in blurbs about who was coming and who was going and who was seen with who. And here we are, you know, in 2016, and we have Facebook and other digital media, and yet one of the common threads that you see is that people like to connect with people, and the Jewish News from 1942 to the present has been largely about connecting a community with itself, with people who live in it who otherwise might not know each other or know what they're doing, and they want to know about what they're doing, and at the same time connecting them with the larger issues of the day.
So while platforms have changed, human nature much stays the same. And speaking of at least one human who has stayed the same, at your paper you have a columnist who has been there for the full 75 years.
Yes, and his name is Danny Raskin, and some would say that he has stayed the same, but he's also changed. He's 97 years old. He's written a column every single week in the Jewish News since March 27th, 1942, which is the first issue of the Jewish News. He is the Cal Ripken and Lou Gehrig combined of column writing. And Danny's focus is largely on people, personalities, and also restaurants. And the thing that's interesting, he's still one of the best read people in our publication, because as he likes to say, it doesn't matter how old you are, you like to eat. And if you like to eat, you want to know where to go and who has good food. And you know what? God bless him. Hopefully for our 100th anniversary, Danny will still be writing, and maybe I'll still even be here with you, Laurel.
What an amazing career for him. Very quickly, tell me about the Jewish News Foundation, started in recent years, and what's that's doing for your paper.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Well, it's interesting because in January of 2002, we had a fire. It burned down our entire building. One of the things that people were very concerned about, aside, of course, was anybody hurt? Nobody was hurt. Were we able to get the paper out? We did get it out one day late, but also one of the major things that we ended up doing with the Detroit Jewish News Foundation is preserving the content of the Jewish News.
Which will let people know how they can see all that. Thank you so much for joining us today. For more information on how to see that content, you can head to the Detroit Jewish News, which is djnfoundation.org. Today's newsmaker was Arthur Horwitz, the publisher and executive editor of the Detroit Jewish News.